Nima, I don't need to speak about it. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Go ahead and share your talk as you will, and share your screen and take over. Okay.
Awesome. Just to confirm, I see a little bit hiccup in your voice. Can you hear me fine?
I can hear you fine.
Perfect. So awesome. So I'm going to share my screen and start the conversation. Hello, everyone. Muy buenas tardes a todos. Un gusto estar acá. I speak a little bit Spanish, but this is a good conversation starter to introduce myself and our company, Hummingbirds AI. So I'm glad to see everyone. I'm passionate always about the usage of AI, especially diversifying the use of AI in different countries, specifically Latin America. And with that vision, we have built a global team. We have teams in a few countries in Latin America, including Colombia and Argentina, which are amazing countries. But of course, there are other amazing countries in Latin America. My wife and I have been traveling, not only traveling, but living in a few of these countries in Latin America. And the only thing that we can say from Latin America is positive energy and good vibes. So thanks everyone for the hospitality that you gave us in the last few years that we were visiting and also living in Latin America. And also thank to Robert for hosting us, Hummingbirds AI, in this great event. So I'm going to start with introducing myself. I'm Nima Schei. By background, I'm a medical doctor who was always passionate about AI. I'm one of the pioneers of emotional AI. From 20 years ago, I started experiencing AI and introducing new classes in AI, specifically in the field of emotional AI and bringing emotions into machines, because we believe that emotions can have positive roles in decision-making. And at the same time, it showed scientific papers, more than 400 scientific papers, showed that the classes that we introduced back then, 20 years ago, have been superior in terms of decision-making comparing to traditional AI models. That's a little bit about history about me. I'm also a neuroscientist and then a serial entrepreneur. This is my new passion, started during pandemic, early pandemic in 2019, end of 2019, when pandemic started. Hummingbirds AI was born in that hardship, and we are now a global team consisting of people all in Western Hemisphere, from Northern America to Southern America. So talking about Hummingbirds AI, we are a deep tech innovation hub based in Miami, and we create new and cutting-edge computer vision applications specifically for security and efficiency of enterprises. I'm going to elaborate more about this security part, but that's part of the things that we are doing. We are also covering the efficiency part of the enterprises, and that's, I guess, a good starting point of the conversation about how to use AI, specifically vision AI or computer vision, in order to authenticate employees and make sure there is always the right employee behind the screen or behind the computer. So, slide 2. Okay. So now I'm going to start from what is the problem? What is the problem that we are seeing? And that is cybercrime. And it's the biggest transfer of wealth in human history. Right now, the money that is going to be poured into cybersecurity is enormous. And you are hearing every day from the news that there are new attacks and new ransomware attacks, new hacking attacks that are happening towards infrastructures, towards companies, and we are all the victims over here. So cybercrime in just 4 years, in 2025, will cost us $10.5 trillion. Just imagine that number is more than the GDP of Japan, South Korea, and Germany combined. That's the amount of money that is going to be lost due to cybercrime and cyber threat. This is a huge problem for all of us. It's not only for the US enterprises or European enterprises. We are seeing more and more attacks that are happening in Latin America. Every day I'm having conversations with decision makers from CIOs, chief information officers, to chief information security officers, CEOs and decision makers in Latin America as well, in a few countries I mentioned, Ecuador, Colombia, Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama. And in all of these countries, people are saying the same thing, that they are seeing an increase in the attacks that are happening towards their infrastructure, towards their company. And there are a lot of problems that are associated with that. Big issue, $10.5 trillion is lost by 2025. And that's the amount of money that is being lost every year. So imagine that in 10 years, what amount that would be. It's going to be even bigger than all the other types of crime combined. This is a huge number and a huge problem for our society. It got even worse after the attack, Russian attack to Ukraine. So in the last month or so that we are seeing this unfortunate event, we are seeing that the amount of cyber threat has been rapidly gone up. In just 48 hours, we have seen 800% more cyber attacks in infrastructure and specifically financial institutions. Even in banks, smaller banks, small banks, medium-sized banks, we are seeing attacks that we haven't seen that before. So this is something new. This is a new ecosystem. We haven't seen this kind of attacks last year or the years before. So what we see is that currently the infrastructure that we have in order to protect ourselves against those cyber attacks are not efficient enough. And that's why everyone is worried. FBI warns about it. The president of the United States is warning against it. And these attacks are not just a couple of hackers that are doing that in the basement. Now the ecosystem has changed. The attacks are organized crime. They're like groups. They're like hundreds of people, often backed by governments, that they attack at the same time into different infrastructure or different banks, and what they do is they inject they inject viruses, to make it simpler, or gain access to the data of those organizations, and I can say that nobody is protected enough as of now. Just an example. This happened yesterday. Okta is a famous company. It's one of the best companies in the cybersecurity world, in passwordless world, in authorization world, in authentication world. That means that this is a company, cloud-based company, that manages your password, the password of the organization. Even that organization that has the sophisticated cybersecurity for itself has gone under attack, and they had a massive hack yesterday. So that's why we can confirm that nobody is protected now. And sooner or later, there will be more attacks in the US. And of course, the same thing would happen in Latin America. So don't think that you're in Latin America and you're safe. It's throughout the world. So we see that these kind of attacks, what comes with it? What's the damage that we see? So when an attack happens, sometimes it's a ransomware attack. So that means that they ask you for a few $1 million of ransom, and hopefully we will be protected. So we pay the money and they will be gone. But that's not the case. Sometimes that continues. Like, they know that you are somebody that is vulnerable. So they know the vulnerabilities. So there will be serial attacks happening and targeting your infrastructure. And if that happens, what would be the consequences? Once an attack happens, let's say in the case of some of these examples that I put here, usually consumers or customers of that organizations are losing their money or losing their data, like in the case of Equifax, which hundreds of millions of Americans' data was leaked to dark web, and many people got victims of identity fraud. I myself was one of them. I was an Equifax customer that I lost money. I lost my identity because of that, and this is a major issue. Now, there are reports that every American's data is on dark web, and sooner or later it can be used in a bad way against us. So in the case of Equifax paid a $425 million fine, right? But that's not the end of it. They paid the money, but how about us? How about we, the average consumers or average customers of Equifax? We have lost money as well. That money can be returned, but our identity and our sensitive data, like social security number, account information, that's now in dark web, which can be exploited against us. Or another example, Sony got hacked a few years ago. You know, the movie Interview, and a lot of IP, intellectual property data, has been stolen. That's a famous example of IP breach. But if your organization has sensitive information, that's always under the target of being stolen by the bad guys. Most importantly, it's infrastructure. Our electric lines, our streets, our water lines, gas lines. These are the attacks that are priceless. Because if those attacks happen, which we expect one or a few of them happens in the near future in the US, unfortunately, then the amount of the loss is basically not money. It's lives that are going to be affected, and it's going to be extremely dangerous. So that was one of the reasons that the president introduced an executive order last year, specifically to secure endpoints, meaning secure computers and devices and the vulnerabilities that we have there against unauthorized access, which is very, very important. And now we don't have enough tools in our organizations, in our enterprises, to be able to protect ourselves against the damage or the attacks that might happen in our endpoints. So zero trust architecture is something that has been becoming more and more popular, meaning that you should consider everybody in your organization as zero trust. You don't trust them unless you can verify this was the correct person with current authentication and current access, and then give them the access point. Otherwise, the infrastructure and the company would be vulnerable to more attacks as we go forward. So I talked about the executive order that was introduced last year for protecting organizations against cyber attacks, specifically protecting the endpoints against the data breach and data attacks that might happen there. Here, the cyber attacks are not the matter of if, they are the matter of when. So sooner or later, cyber attack would happen to your organization. So if you don't have a cyber team and you weren't under an attack, you should buy a lottery ticket because you are the lucky one. And if you have a cyber team and you have been protected so far and your name is not in the list, you should definitely give a good bonus to your cybersecurity team. So what's exactly the problem and how we can solve that? Why I'm emphasizing so much on cyber threats and these numbers and the emphasis that we need to do on that? Because we are vulnerable. Our current authentication mechanisms, like your passwords, is not enough. And if you don't have good authentication mechanism for your users so that you can basically verify this was the right person, then your organization can be sooner or later lose data. What's the problem with password? The problem is that most of the time people are not careful enough about using a good password. You see here top 30 most used passwords, and you see there's a reason that that we are vulnerable, because people are using weak passwords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then sometimes they mix it up, like Superman, Sunshine, Dragon. So this is not a good password. Obviously, you know that you need better passwords. But the second problem here is that once user uses a password, even a strong password, then they remember that password and they want to use the same password across multiple platforms. Usually, let's say your password for your Google account or Gmail account is the same as the one that you're using for your Slack or your cloud, and that's a big issue, because if one of these passwords gets leaked into dark web, which often does, then the bad guys can have access to multiple platforms through that password, and this is a major issue. The problem is second-step authentication is that second-step authentication is not user-friendly, and nobody likes to use that for every website. At the same time, when people use multi-factor authentication, it's not protecting you after logging in. It just protects you for logging, but after that, it doesn't continuously protect you. And this is a major issue. 95% of people in the cybersecurity space are saying that the majority of these attacks and the vulnerabilities are because of the human errors, as mentioned, weak passwords or using the same passwords across multiple devices, or not being protected or uncautious enough. So,
starting to come in on you, Nina. So let's start wrapping it up.
Perfect. So we need a better mechanism, and that's your face. The same concern that we have for privacy. Privacy is a very important factor for the clients to choose one product over another. But I'm going to wrap up that what are the important factors for the clients and enterprises. The solutions should be privacy preserving. They should be cloud independent, because you don't want to use your cloud resources for verifying every user. They should be easy to use and more accessible, and of course GDPR and HIPAA compliant. So this is computer vision. Vision AI. What's computer vision? Computer vision means that we give insights and algorithms to computers so that they can analyze the environment and get proper actions for that. So these are some of the examples that we developed in Rob, can you mute? Okay. In Hummingbirds AI, same as the solutions that you see in Tesla and other companies, these are the products that we have developed. And Rob, I see. Okay, I have a little bit of noise from your end. Okay, so here the authentication mechanisms that use your face is a face verification, the same as you have in your Face ID, but with a little bit of more advancements, that it can be used in every computer rather than just the phone, and it also continuously protects you after logging in. The way that it works is that if the right person is behind the computer, you can still function with the computer, but as soon as somebody that is not authorized appears in front of the computer, it automatically blocks the computer so that they cannot get access to the computer. Basically, this is a protection mechanism that continuously makes sure only the right person will have access to the computer. This is just the last slide. I'm going to wrap up. So with this system, your infrastructure will be protected because you don't need passwords. Your face would be your password. It protects your privacy, the same as your iPhone. Your data would be safe, encrypted in the device. Nobody else would have access to that. And it blocks the vulnerabilities in terms of access of unauthorized people to your infrastructure. We use video as the source of our AI or footage. That's why it's more robust than using, let's say, just a single selfie or a few selfies. And that's why we have more data points when using videos. And therefore, if the mask is like a regular mask just covering here, we don't have any problem. And basically, nobody can fool the system. I finished, I think, on time. This is the last message. Every computer has chips. It's time for Guacamole. And Guacamole is the name of the platform that we developed in Hummingbirds AI for multi-factor authentication in a continuous way in order to make sure that your information is only being accessed to by the right people. Saludos todos, gracias for the time. And if you need more information from us, I'm Nima Schei, Nima at Hummingbirds AI. Please reach out to us.
I'm going to thank you so much, and I appreciate it. We're going to bring in our next speaker now, Nima. So thanks again, okay?
Thank you so much for your time and hospitality.